Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Saturday upgrade in Commander build video here on the Tier 10 Italian battleship, the Cristoforo Colombo. This is a decent Tier 10 ship. I'd say it's still even into 2023, going into 2024. Maybe some things a little different now that you have access to the new steel Italian Tier 10 battleship, the Loria. Which I've enjoyed with its 457mm guns, 8 of them. But here, with the Cristoforo Colombo, we have 16 guns, 16 381mm guns. So we're going to go over the armor, the upgrades, modules, and commander naturally, and give you my thoughts overall on the ship. Now, going right into it, let's first talk about, I guess, the first thing I technically do is talk about, excuse me, some Cheerios stuck in my throat. The playstyle of the ship. Cristoforo Colombo excels most at the mid-range, and I would phrase that as 12 to 15 kilometers here in the high tier. Mainly due to her guns have a sigma of 1.5, which is rather poor. But they tend to do that for ships in the game that have a lot of guns, and you have 16 guns, right? And an horizontal and vertical dispersion. So it's not the most accurate battleship, and so if you really play a lot at long range, that's going to be a little bit more of a difficult challenge, because even at 18.9 kilometer, you're like, I'd rather shoot a battleship that's further out of the, maybe the 17, 18 kilometers. Now, you can get lucky, of course, with some salvos, with some RNG, but this is best played as a mid-range battleship, okay, and mainly playing around her concealment. Now, going into the armor, there's a few little interesting things here, but mainly it's pretty standard. You have a 32mm fore end and aft end plating. And then as we go along the casemate armor, you see 70mm, but then there's also some 150mm here along the side. So you don't normally see that on most ships in the game, and that's due to the secondary guns that are sitting along here. So they've gave some more armor just underneath them, so a little different. 375mm on this armor belt, and then we start stripping the armor away to find where that citadel is. First here you can kind of see the citadel. It's in here, and you have a sort of turtle back, but yeah, it's interesting, right? So it's maybe possible to bounce some shells back up into the superstructure, but some more of those plunging shots are possible to just punch right through and hit the citadel for larger caliber battleship guns. So here you can see it's just can't even, because of that gap. I think it's just, is it waterline? I guess it is waterline citadel, because it's like trying to see if there's a little bit of above the top, but of course, it's going to be reaching out from the forward turret to the rearmost main battery turret. So just beneath waterline. So if you're trying to get a citadel shot, I mean, ideally you want to be able to get up close, but again, you're going to struggle a little bit, maybe depending on how close you are, if you can actually punch through and not be deflected back up into the superstructure. And then the armor on the main battery guns, 406mm on the front, 254 on the side, 200 on the top, and then on the rear, 380. So that's nice that the front of these turrets are overall the strongest. So that is good to see here on this ship, because sometimes it's like weird that that's not always the case. Now, in terms of her modules, so these are, again, 381mm guns. This was a battleship that never existed. It was a hypothetical, what would this look like, I think, based off a project design. So with the main battery mod 3 in the 6th slot, our reload time is 32.6 seconds. Now, if I remember correctly, otherwise it would be 37 seconds stock, and I'm not really all about that. I don't enjoy playing the battleship so much. I mean, Vermont's a different case, because I would say because her guns are just really accurate despite having the 12 guns and all 457mm guns. But I have a hard time waiting for a really long time in periods for my guns to reload. And that the fact that this is a mid-range battleship with 1.5 sigma means I'm not too worried about her building out her range. I'd rather build into her reload time. So 32.6 seconds. With Luigi Sansonetti and the baked-in negative 30% shell switching time on the Italian battleships, 9.1 seconds from the SAP to AP or vice versa, which is really helpful, and I think I illustrated that well yesterday in Friday's highlight video. You can see our 180-degree turn time is 36.7 seconds. It's a little bit higher than what I would prefer it to be, but do keep in mind that these rear turrets are 360-degree turning turrets. So I don't know if maybe this helps to see, but this turret can swivel 360 degrees right through here. Well, of course, your forward turrets are not, so they have that 270-degree window, roughly speaking. So that's really helpful, and I don't find myself struggling too much with that. Only when I'm maybe kiting and I need to reorient myself and which side I'm shooting the guns from off the ship. SAP shell damage 12,500. Maximum AP shell damage 12,000. So if this is still correct, she has the heaviest AP broadside in the game just due to the sheer number of guns, actually heavier than Vermont's. But again, how many shells are you landing with a 1.5 Sigma, right? You get in closer range, you can see some really good hits, like it was an enemy Vermont. I think we did 30k on him, but we were like, I don't know, 8 or 9 kilometers away from him. So we got him good and we killed him, so we might have probably done more damage, just didn't know. The hull is 89,900, so for tier 10 battleship she doesn't have a lot of hit points, right? There's GK and some of the others, they're looking at 96,000, over 100,000, so it's not like it's absolutely terrible, but I mean in comparison to other tier 10 battleships, she's among the lower part of the crowd in terms of overall amount of health pool. Your main battery firing range is 18.9. Now, as I said, if you wanted to build into the range, you could do that. It would take you, I think, up to almost 22 kilometers if you took the gunfire control system mod 2 at 16%. So yeah, I think it's almost 22. Versus the 18.9 where we're at. But I take Luigi Sansonetti for another reason on Colombo, and that is as soon as you get your first kill, or you get a kill, and it does happen with your first kill, he has this talent that extends your main battery gun range. So that's actually really convenient to have here in Colombo for those times when you do want that more than 18.9. I mean, there are times I want that. Of course, we have the spotter plane as well. But the 18.9 in general has worked fine for me. Propulsion, 160,000 horsepower, 29.6 knots. So there's a lot more battleships coming into the game that can outpace the Colombo. Of course, you can take Ceramic flag and get up to 31.1 knots. And maybe even talk about Brisk, but yeah, we'll have to see about that one when we look at the commander. For the first slot, I've taken the main armaments mod 1. Your risk of main battery becoming incapacitated, negative 20%. Main battery survivability, plus 50%. Main battery repair time, negative 20%. I'm a bit of a fan to try to keep all of my 16 guns going here in the game. I think I've had a turret knocked out, I think, twice of the games I've played so far in this ship. You don't need magazine modification 1. This reduces the risk of your ship's magazine detonating by negative 70%. We just take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely eliminates the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. Don't really need to talk about secondaries or AA. I think if I remember correctly, of all 27 current tier 10 battleships in the game, she ranks 17 or 18. Her AA is not so great, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more as time goes on. Maybe, if you feel okay with the armor of your main armament mod 1, you could take the spotting aircraft mod 1. Which would extend your consumable action time of your spotter plane by plus 30%. So maybe, if you decided to go like what I'm doing, the main battery mod 3, if I was going to play a lot of Colombo, this is actually something I would really consider here running on the spotting aircraft mod 1. I'm not so sure yet overall how much I will be playing the ship overall, since I just picked up the Loria, and so I have only played one battle in Loria, so I'm excited to actually play that ship more and get a feel for it. But this is something I would consider if you're a Colombo lover, is the way I would phrase that. For the second slot, I've taken the Damage Control System Mod 1. This is reducing our risk of catching fire by -5% and risk of flooding by -3%. You really wouldn't take engine room protection here. It's maybe more for destroyers and cruisers. Now, if you're wondering about these discounted numbers you're seeing, this is just because it's Christmas season in Wargaming. I think for 5 days have made all upgrades in the game half off. So this isn't some like bonus thing I'm getting from Wargaming. It's just the time of year that we are in that they do this occasionally. Now, here in the third slot, I've elected to take the Aiming Systems Mod 1. Those of you who are familiar with the channel and you watch a lot of my upgrade commander build videos know that I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to accuracy of the main battery guns. So here with this mod, we get a -7% to our vertical shell dispersion and our horizontal shell dispersion. So meaning we're getting tighter shell groupings. I'd have to see. I'll put it on the right side of the screen. I don't know if it's maybe it's gonna be like anywhere from like 6 to like 15 meters tighter for either of them, maybe a little more. So I really want to be able to try to help the accuracy of Colombo with the 16 guns. If she had a better Sigma in that, I would probably lean more towards taking main battery mod 2, and this might be what most of you would like to prefer and take, but for myself, I really like having a better accuracy with these 16 guns, because they are, you can really smack, I mean, you smack cruisers so hard, like it's amazing, right? And so just having a little bit more accuracy, or you're trying to deal with that pesky destroyer that's maybe contesting a cap or something, having a little more accuracy, hoping that you get a reset, so on and so forth, or even nab the kill. Now, of course, we can also talk about the Smoke Generator Mod 1, available here in the third slot. It will extend the Smoke Curtain Generator consumable action time by plus 20%. So this, here on Colombo, one of her consumables is the exhaust smoke generator, so we could bump that up to 54 seconds with nothing else taken into account right now. So if you do want to run that, you can. For myself, I'm sticking with the Aiming Systems Mod 1. One of the issues is the smoke firing penalty on Cristoforo Colombo is massive. I don't know if actually I can see it here, but it should be 16.7 kilometers. So it's not like you're doing Napoli things or Michelangelo things, right? When you're brawling in, you're dumping your torpedoes. It's usually, it's kind of more used as a get out of jail free card per se, where you can turn out, if you need to turn out, you pop the smoke, make your turn, and then you can open up with your main battery guns again. Fourth slot, I've taken the Damage Control System Mod 2. This reduces the, or helps with the fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time by -15%, so it helps build into your overall survivability in the game when you start getting maybe a little focused, perhaps. So this is what I feel comfortable promoting here. The fifth slot, really, I would say it's the Concealment System Mod 1. Ship's detectability range, -10%. Squad detectability range, -10%. Dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship, +5%. So that means enemy ships have a slightly worse dispersion when they're shooting at you because of taking the Concealment System Mod 1. So when you go for a max conceal, that brings you down to that 14 kilometers. And then, of course, you see detectability after firing main guns and smoke, 16.7. Otherwise, you know, you have a pretty large conceal. So another way of Wargaming sort of, I think in their efforts to balance the ship between worse accuracy, not giving it the best of concealment in the game, right? So I got caught off guard yesterday in the game. I think that last clip I was showing you as I gave you my closing comments due to a Thunder, right? Thunder has a better concealment than the Colombo, so I ate a little bit of a larger salvo than I was willing to in that moment, because I didn't realize the Thunder had turned back out and he was just simply better concealment and could detect me. So I do recommend running this over the others. The sixth slot, myself, I'm going to recommend you take the Main Battery Mod 3. Of course, this is totally up to you. If you want to try out the Gunfire Control System Mod 2, you can. But with the Main Battery Mod 3, it's going to reduce your reload time from 37 seconds to, was it the 32.6 seconds. But you're going to take a Main Battery Traverse Speed nerf, -13%, so that's going to add on to our 180 degree turret traverse time to 36.7 when maybe otherwise it would be more like 34 or something. I'm just guessing that off the top of my head. With the gunfire control system mod 2, your main battery firing range is plus 16%. So again, that would bump you up to roughly 22 kilometer of gunfire range. But if you play Cristoforo Colombo like constantly, or like majority of your battle time, 17 kilometers to 22 kilometers away, you're going to be really disappointed because you're just not going to be able to get those accurate damaging salvos, and so your overall performance and impact in the game will just be affected. So what I have found with Cristoforo Colombo when I'm playing with that concealment, I'm playing with these guns, is that often I'm waiting at the start of the battle, see how things go, and then I make more of my positioning in terms of getting closer, and then if I feel the enemy team is starting to focus a little too much, I back off, or I'm kiting them if they're pushing, and then maybe I'm pushing back again as things develop. So just as an example. So the armament, the semi-armor piercing shells, sap shells, these are highly effective against lightly armored targets, and they deal considerable damage. You saw I was having a lot of fun shooting British cruisers in yesterday's video. Like we did a 27k salvo on a Balwin defense because we just overmatch him everywhere since he's 96mm armor penetration capacity, and I can't remember what they do pin. Is it 26mm, regardless of angles and such. But then, you know, there's another like 20k salvo on a tier 10 British cruiser. We dev struck a Kitakami. This is really good for the Kitakami because with AP, you're most likely just going to overpin like Kitakamis and, you know, cruisers with your armor AP doesn't have enough time to arm and explode inside the enemy ship's cruiser's citadel. So the sap is a really nice counter to that, where a Kitakami does not want to be broadside to your salvo. He actually wants to angle away as best as possible. But 12,500 maximum damage, and pretty decent initial velocity of the 880 meters a second. The armor piercing, it is 12,000 maximum damage. Initial velocity 850 meters a second, so you can see that there's actually a difference in the shell travel time between the semi-armor piercing AP shells. So if you actually noticed or caught this, it's not you, it's actually that there's just a distance, but it would be very minute and hard to tell. The depth charge airstrike, thankfully Wargaming gave this a 11 kilometer maximum range, so I've made a lot of use of this in my battles and playing and having lots of Marines around. So this is really nice to have overall, so I do recommend doing what you can to utilize the depth charge airstrikes. Of course, you know, even if I can't see where the sub is, you know, I'm still trying to drop them in his vicinity because they have a 30-second reload time, and I'm like, why not? So they have a aircraft HP of 2,000. You have a number of aircraft attacking flight 1, but they have 2 bombs in the payload that do 4,900 maximum damage, and 2 available flights. In terms of your consumables, pretty standard here. Your damage control party, without, I have a commander skill right now that's helping this, but your standard consumable action time would be 15 seconds, but we have 16.5, giving us a longer DCP. Our cooldown time is 80 seconds. We have a repair party, HP per second plus 449. The action time would be 28 seconds, but again, because of the commander perk we have, it's bumped us up to 30.8 seconds. We can take the India Delta combat signal, which I do recommend, as it helps restore the amount of HP used or affected as you pop this, and so now you see plus 539 a second. Versus that 449, so we get more health back. So I do recommend running the India Delta combat signal. Spotting aircraft is really the clear winner between spotting and fighter. This is just really helpful in many ways, you know, plus 20%, so you know, now you're over 22 kilometers of being able to shoot enemy ships. So you know, I think there was a battle where I was getting some resets on an Ohio, and I needed the spotter aircraft because the defense was pushing and chasing me, as I was pretty low health at that point. So I was trying to help my team kill the Ohio since he was sitting on the cap in arms race. So This is helpful to have, and I much prefer having spotting aircraft over the fighter here. Fighters are pretty useless here in World of Warships, in my opinion. Maybe with the aircraft and submarine rework coming up, fighters will be maybe a little more useful on your ship, but in reality, spotting aircraft is really the way to go on Cristoforo Colombo. Now we have 3 exhaust smoke generators. They have action time of 45 seconds. We've talked about how we can bump it to 54 seconds, of course, if you took the smoke generator mod 1. But I think also here, with the X-Ray Papa Uno 1, we can actually add 10% on, which I do take, so then 49.5 seconds. So then actually, with this in the 3rd slot, you'd be looking about a minute of being able to utilize the exhaust smoke generator. Smoke screen dispersion time 10 seconds. So then if you sit in your last puff of smoke, you could add on, I could add on another 10 seconds. So technically I could say I have 59.5 seconds, right? Action radius, a half a kilometer. So I've used this to help get my cruiser friends. I've used it to get a Moskva. I think the other one is a Goliath, who were a bit getting focused down, and kind of escort them out. And then and with the Goliath, I got shotgunned by an enemy Gato right after I was trying to help him in this way. So you can find ways to use exhaust smoke generator for your allies, especially your cruiser friends, right? You're a battleship, you can take a little bit more damage than your cruiser buddies. So I do try to also utilize the exhaust smoke generator in a team play way. Cooldown time, 180 seconds, and you get 3 of them. Now, it's also important to mention that I think you only get 4 repair parties, and again, a commander skill perk I've taken is helping us get the additional heal. In terms of other combat signals I would run, this is what I would run overall. So, not producing no chances of detonating. We're playing ranked random clan battles. Reducing our fire extinguishing time by negative 20%, our flooding recovery time, we're doing more damage when ramming, and we receive less damage when an enemy rams us. We're going a bit faster. We're getting our consumables to reload even faster, so rather than 80, you see 76 seconds. Again, rather than 80, 76 seconds. Our spotter comes back up 228 versus I think it's 240, yeah? And our smoke's coming up at 171 versus 180. And then, of course, we're extending our smoke consumable action time. So with that being said, let's go look at our commander. We have Luigi Sansonetti. So if you're wondering how you get Luigi Sansonetti, you get him via crates. So I'm going to try to show you. Sometimes I've been having some issues with Army as soon as I log in. Or open the armory, it actually doesn't show me like having bought anything, and I can't see my wallet. And then if I log out of World Warships and I log back in for the second time, while my PC has been on, then it works fine. So it's a bit strange. Excuse me as I drink some coffee. But you would get him from these, I think they're called Rapid and Resolute crates. Yes. So let's see here. For coal, yeah. So this is, you get elements of the Resolute and Rapid collection, and upon earning all of these in the collection, you receive Sansonetti. So let me just show you. Sorry if this is taking a little additional time and you're not really interested in doing this. I have to remember actually what it looks like. I'm probably going to skip it because there's a lot of collections. Yeah, oh yeah, here it is, yeah. So here you can see Luigi Sansonetti. He comes as a 10-point commander, and then you get the Italian Navy symbol. And then, of course, within each of these, you're going to get a day of premium for the Resolute and Rapid collection. So you buy those containers to give you these collection items, and then upon getting all 16, or if you're using your duplicates, right, if you don't have them all, then you will obtain Luigi Sansonetti. And since then, we've worked him up to a 19-point commander. Now, let's talk about his talents. So he has the rapid fire. So upon earning the Confederate achievement, your main battery reload time will be reduced by negative 15%. Right, so when we build into that main battery mod 3 in the 6th slot to get us down to 32.6 seconds, we can get the reload time down. Now let me pull up my calculator. 32.6 times 0.85, 27.71 seconds. And that's before we'd even take something like Adrenaline Rush into account. So I like having him. I've gotten it more on Venezia than I have here with Colombo. I haven't activated this talent yet with Colombo, but I actually need to be fishing more, particularly for the Confederate, because you have to do so much damage to so many enemy ships on the enemy team. This one, the Far Reach talent that I spoke of, it can be activated. It only activates once per battle upon destroying an enemy ship. Your main battery firing range plus 8%, right? So we've said that our range is 18.9, and then times 1.08. Then we have a 20.4 kilometer main battery firing range. So another really reason that really helps out with Colombo and running Sansonetti on here. So there's just a lot of benefits in general having Sansonetti here. Then you have Concealed Reserves, which I've activated a few times, as well as the Far Reach. And this activates once per battle upon hitting enemy ships 100 times with the main battery shells. I mean, you're firing 16 guns, and as long as you at least get those 100 hits, then your ship consumable action time is going to be increased by plus 10%. And you can see that's for the damage control party, the repair party, the spotter plane, and the exhaust smoke generator. So some other nice bonuses there kicking in and helping you out and making you a bit more of a dangerous ship when you pair Sansonetti with Colombo. And then these, of course, are just personalizations that you can simply click to turn off. But I like showing off that Sansonetti is indeed the commander of my Colombo. Now, for battleships, there's one enhanced skill. Normally you'd see maybe 2 enhanced skills, but there's only one enhanced skill. And that is the gun feeder. So normally I think now it's negative 40% for a main battery shell type switching time, but we have negative 60% with Sansonetti. So this is very helpful, right? You have amazing sap, you have really good armor piercing, so it's really helpful to utilize this here on Colombo, in my opinion. So that's what I'm going to recommend as your first point skill. And when you have a 3-point commander, take Grease the Gears to reduce your main battery traverse speed, improve it. Your turrets are turning faster by that plus 20%. Then for a 6-point commander, take Adrenaline Rush. This is really going to help you out with that main battery reload time. So, before long, we had that 32.6 second reload time, but now we're getting 31, 30, 29 in comparison to most battleships in the game, which tend to have a 30-second main battery reload time. Then after the 10-point, it's up to you. I would say either go for Fire Prevention Expert or Concealment Expert. Myself, because I used Sansonetti to grind up on a few lines, so I had the bonus of just throwing him here on Colombo as a 19-point commander. But I would be the Fire Prevention Expert is what I would take first. This reduces the risk of you catching fire by negative 10%, and the maximum number of fires is reduced by 1. So if you're wondering, you're newer to World Warships, and what does that -1 mean? Without Fire Prevention, you would have 4 fires on your ship. 1 on the bow, 1 on the stern, and 2 on the superstructure. Fire Prevention, instead of having 2 fires on your superstructure, you only have 1. So you don't have 2 fires taking damage, you only have 1 fire taking damage. And most HE spammers in the game, they're going to be focusing your superstructure, right? And there's a lot to bite off here, per se, here on the Colombo. So that's why I think it's best to go with Fire Prevention first. And then for a 14-point commander, take the Concealment Expert. Your ship's detectability range, negative 10%. Then with the 18-point commander, take the Emergency Repair Expert. This increases your damage control party consumable action time, your repair party consumable action time, both of these by the plus 10%. You have unlimited number of damage control parties, but you don't have, of course, you'd only have 4 repair party consumables. So you get an additional charge, which is giving us the 5 repair party consumable charges, and I have used all 5 on Colombo in my random battle games thus far. Not always, but most of them I do use the 5 heals, so I'm really appreciative not only for having 5 heals, but also that I have that slightly longer action time on my repair party and my damage control party. Then for a 21-point commander, I just intend to go for the basics of survivability. I want to build into the survivability of Colombo even more so, and our module restoration time, negative 15%, fire extinction time, negative 15%, and flooding recovery time, negative 15%. There are some games I've had that have been really close, and I've died, and I'm like, man, if I could have lived that little bit longer, maybe I would have been able to have that just game-changing impact for my team. So this is a fairly standard 21-point build that you would see on most battleships in the game. Of course, you have your brawlers, you have your certain battleships that have different niches. You know, another thing you might see is it's typically gun feeder, or it's preventative maintenance, or even emergency repair specialist. Okay, but there's just a lot of benefits in taking the gun feeder here on the Cristoforo Colombo. Now, if you're asking me, Flimsy, if there was another build that you might be interested, what would it be? I do wonder about having Brisk to get that 10% ship speed, right? So if we were to take it, that 31.1 knots becomes 34.21 knots. So maybe I utilize this with the exhaust smoke, which is about 50 seconds action time. I think it's 49.5 seconds. So maybe I want to be able to utilize that. Maybe I need to reposition in the back to the other flank, right? I could see Brisk being useful there. And then I would probably take the emergency repair specialist. Damage control party consumable cooldown time, -3%. Repair party consumable cooldown time, -3%. So your damage control party and your repair party are just coming faster off of cooldown time. So this is what I would probably look to run if I was going to do something alternates that incorporated Brisk as an example. Is there anything else I would really do here with Colombo? No. Just that's my opinion. You know, of course, maybe you wonder about the... yeah, as I'm looking at it right here. Yes, sorry. The AA Defense and ASW Expert, it's a 2-point skill. Gives you additional depth charge damage and improves your AA, but again, this is an amazing AA. I said I was going to talk about that, and I think I was thinking about doing it here. Your AA defense without this skill is 81, but your long-range AA is 4.6 kilometers. So enemy CV gets up on you pretty fast, and you're doing best if you only see tier 8 CVs. If you see tier 10s and super CVs, you're kind of screwed, and that a good CV player is probably going to focus you because of your weaker AA. But you could take this skill, also because it improves your ship's characteristics when your AA guns are active, and your ship consumables preparation reload time is reduced spending 40%. So that means your heal, your DCP, your spotter plane, your exhaust smoke generator are coming off cooldown faster when that's activated. And then maybe I'm doing that. Okay. But you don't always... This also works if there's a Battleship player drops his ASW depth charges on you with the planes, or there is a fighter that's causing your AA to be active, or an enemy spotter from an enemy cruiser battleship that's active, causing your AA to be active. Anything that causes your AA to be active, this skill kicks in, even if there's not CVs in the battle. But in closing this video up, this would be my first preference. Second preference, I would lean towards this. Third preference, I would lean towards this. So you can see I'm kind of sticking, there's a theme in trying to build into our survivability a bit. And this is just a really tried and true build here in the game. So that's going to bring this video to a close. So I hope you appreciated this video on the Colombo. If you have a Colombo and you have a build that you really like and it alters from what I've shared, please share below. This is just my opinions, and maybe you found something that works quite well for you with your playstyle, etc. So you can feel free to share with us in the comments below. But if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.